Kiev is shaken, as Russia struck them with hundreds of drones and missiles. It's day 1186 of Russia's operation in Ukraine. Let's dive deeper. Today we have lots of things to discuss. First, we will start with the good news. That is also one of the main highlights of the last 24 hours. It is a prisoner exchange that is taking place between Russia and Ukraine. You may remember, during the negotiation in Istanbul between Ukraine and Russia, both agreed to the prisoner exchange with a formula of 1,000 for 1,000. This is the largest prisoner exchange that has ever taken place. According to the sources, the exchange will take 3 days to complete. Media from both sides have shared images and videos of the first rounds. However, like many things, both sides have accused each other of including civilians in their exchanges. Russian media has shared footage of civilians, including elderly women, returning back to Russia. Given we have not seen the actual agreement, we cannot tell if this was agreed upon at the meeting, and both sides are accusing each other for the global support. However, we can all agree that this is a good thing, and is probably a step in the right direction. In addition, President Trump has also congratulated both countries for this exchange. Furthermore, according to the Ukrainian officials, they are working on preparing a meeting between President Putin and Zelensky. However, if I am not mistaken, the Russian side has not agreed to this meeting. However, it would be interesting to see, and would be very historic. Speaking of the meeting, Russia's Minister of Foreign Affairs recently gave a press conference, in which he said the biggest obstacle to ending this conflict would be the legitimacy of Ukrainian President Zelensky. We get the idea that he is suggesting an election should take place before signing any ceasefire agreement. In addition to this, he has also accused Ukraine of deliberately striking civilian targets and sabotaging ceasefire negotiation. In addition, Russia yesterday launched a massive long-range strike on Ukraine. According to Ukrainian sources, they were able to shoot down 245 out of 250 drones and 6 out of 14 missiles. While the main focus of the attack was Kiev, other areas were also struck. Sources have shared several images and footage of the strike, and also of the aftermath. Now, in the last 24 hours, there were many changes to the front lines, and new battles are forming around strategically important areas. At the Kupiansk front, Russian armed forces seem to have increased their intensity on the northern flank. Given that both sides have relatively similar strength, and due to the geography, currently Russian forces are having a hard time advancing. However, as Ukraine is put through intense pressure on the Donetsk front, they might be looking to transfer reinforcements from this front. Because in the last 48 hours Russian forces started attacking towards Kupiansk from the north, particularly this area. According to the trusted sources, they have captured this area and expanded their zone of control. However, they tried to attack towards Mala Shapkivka in previous week, with the help of a motorcycle, but their attack was repelled. As this highway connects Kupiansk to the north grouping, it is quite important for the Ukrainian garrison to keep it open. Having said that, I think Russian sources are giving too much importance to this highway, because gaining physical control won't have much of an impact on the Ukrainian garrison, as they have many more roads that could easily be used for the supplies. But Ukraine will have to look out for this section. Even though both sides have similar garrisons, Russian forces could concentrate their troops, break through, and reach the city from the north. However, given Russia's offensive on the Donetsk front, and talks about creating the buffer zone, I don't see them activating this front anytime soon. But in order to prevent redeployments, they will keep a constant pressure on Ukrainian forces. Now moving to the eastern flank of Pokrovsk. Here Russian forces continue to attack towards the Popovyar-Poltavka line. In a previous report, I explained with topography how Russian forces are advancing along the heights. And then I said, Russia's objective would be to push Ukraine from the heights, which will then make the fall of these two villages much easier. And it seems like they are doing something similar. In the last 24 hours, they have started attacking westwards, which follows the heights. It was confirmed by the sources. They have captured this area of the open field. Russians could now try to take this tree line in this position, or will try to probe the defenses of the village. In the next report, we might get the update. In other areas, intense fights are taking place, but no advances were confirmed. Now we move to Odradne, which is south of Avdiivka. If you remember, in our previous report, we saw how Ukrainian forces counterattacked with a Leopard tank, as Russian stormtroopers were approaching the village. However, they were eventually forced to fall back, and Russian forces entered the village from two sides. Given they worked most of the Ukrainian positions in the village with drones, fabs, and artillery, now their task became easier. Today it was confirmed, the village has fallen under Russian control, as they capture this area. To confirm the capture, this footage was shared by the Russian sources. Now Russian forces will use this momentum and push northwards. This will compromise the rear of Avdiivka. However, according to the Russian sources, in the last 2 or 3 days, Ukrainian forces were seen counterattacking, so they are in the mood to defend strongly. Now we move all the way to the northern borders, south of Tetkino. Given Ukraine suffered huge losses by the Russian drones, which was also confirmed by the Ukrainian battalion commander, today we got the update that they have increased their control zones slightly. Subscribe for more frontline updates. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.